Welcome to class, everybody. I'm going to share my screen as the first thing we do. And here we are. It's Tuesday, January 31st. And officially, the second draft of essay number 2 is due today. I know there's a few of you who haven't gotten that in yet, and that's all right. We're going to let things slip a little bit. Tonight, we're going to prepare for the third essay. Actually, this is your major project for the term. So this is the most important essay coming up. And we'll talk about it as we go along, but essentially, just like the other two essays, you're going to choose 3 of the articles or three parts of articles, or even for this essay, you can choose a topic, a human rights topic, and write your essay about that particular topic. So you have a lot more freedom to choose and decide what kind of essay you want to write this time around. We're going to read this declaration tonight, and you'll hear about all the different issues, and that'll help you to decide. I'm actually not going to ask you to do this essay this quickly. I'm going to push this back to February 5th, February 7th, so that you have a bit more time to do this. And we'll deal with the second draft down there. Okay, that's good. After that. So here we are today. We're going to read about the essay number 3. We will have a class on Thursday. Some of you might get your essay in by then. In any case, we'll do some editing practice, or we'll spend some time talking about the essay if we need to talk about it a little bit more. So we'll have a Zoom class on Thursday. And then next Tuesday will be our last Zoom class. And we'll take a look at the first drafts of essay number 3, and we'll talk about what we're going to do with the final exam. And maybe we'll do less final exam and more essay number 3. We'll just have to see how that goes. But as you can see, after that, there's no more Zoom classes, and classes end basically here is when the final day. So it's only a week after that classes are over. I know this was a really quick term.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm just quite getting confused with what I'm reading right now. It says final exam draft 1. Does that mean the final essay, like the essay number 3?
Yes, what I'm going to do
Okay.
is not have that essay and just have essay number 3.
Thank you so
That's
much.
the way we're going to do it. This is going to be
Okay.
your last essay.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
that's the way we're going to handle it. Most of you have been working really hard. You've done a really good job. A couple of you are a little bit behind, and eliminating that 4th essay will make it easier for you to catch up. So for sure, this essay number 3 is going to be the last one you do. So make it the best one. That way you'll get a good grade. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Everybody see that? This essay number 3 is going to be the last essay. And we'll just leave the due dates like that for now. Gives a little slippage time in there for some people who have other essays to finish before they do that. Okay, let me just stop there for a second. So anybody have any questions about what's going on? I know we had the one bunch of people are here. Just checking essays and people. Okay.
Sorry, Professor, just to clarify, so no exam, just the last essay?
I'm going to eliminate the final exam and just do the 3rd essay as the major project. Yes, which means that the 3rd essay is going to be worth a little bit more because I'm taking that fourth essay final exam off the table. So
Awesome, thank you.
do a good job with essay 3. You only have, if you finish essay 2, you only have this last one essay. Those of you who are a little bit behind, you need to catch up. A couple of you that are here are in that situation. So please get your essay number 2 in as soon as you can. It's Tuesday, so you have during the week to do that.
Professor, I'm working on it. I might send it to you by tomorrow before the day.
That is terrific. yes, the sooner I get them, then the sooner I can read them, comment on them, get them back to you, and you get a chance to revise it. Just checking, see if anybody else is in there. Okay, I see. Okay. All right. So hope that's all clear, and we'll go over it again on Tuesday, so don't worry about it. I'm going to share my screen, and let's take a look at the focus of the third essay, which is the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This was put forth in 1948, right after World War II, and mostly in response to all the horrors of World War II. Some of you have written about Hitler, and some of you know about that kind of genocide that occurred in World War II. And even today, with Putin and the war in Ukraine, people are talking about some of the things that Putin is doing as being against human rights. And actually, this declaration that we're reading tonight is the single one declaration that expresses the idea of human rights for the world. And it was put forth in 1948, and all of the nations of United Nations signed it. Today, I think almost all the nations of United Nations have also signed it. There's more countries there now. We talk about civil rights here in the United States. We talked about the inalienable rights of the Declaration of Independence. We talked about the civil rights and the Bill of Rights, but those are really just for the United States. Here, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights is for the world, for everybody in the world. Now, there's a little preamble here. I don't want to read this through with you right now. You can take a look at it. But basically what it says is that people should take this Declaration of Human Rights, share it, teach it in schools, and get everybody to understand what it's all about. So let's go. It's a bunch of articles, so bear with me. We'll go through the whole thing. And as we go through, we'll see what different issues there are that are raised by these different articles. So here's Article 1. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Very strong statement. And here, they are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood. Brotherhood's a word, today we might use a word like humanity, but basically it's a word that expresses the notion that human beings care about each other. But look at this, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. It doesn't say that we're equal, that we're all the same. This is not this idea of equity that you might have heard about lately. This is the idea that people deserve equal respect and people have equal rights. And rights, of course, are a legal issue. So it's really people have equal rights before the law. And here, they're endowed. Notice there's no Christian God here. One of the things that was done when the Declaration of Human Rights was put together, it was put together for the entire world. And of course, the entire world is full of different religions and different cultures and different countries with different laws. And so what the United Nations had to do was to create a document that everybody could value and everybody could adhere to. And so a lot of the language that they used was language that enabled anybody to accept it. They didn't slant it one way or another in most cases. In any case, so here they're endowed, not in the Declaration of Independence is endowed by their creator, right? The Christian God, but here just they're endowed with reason and conscience. Reason, of course, being logical thinking, and conscience meaning an understanding of what's right and what's wrong. And so that's how they start out Article 1. But here, free and equal in dignity and rights, meaning that everyone should have the same amount of respect for each other and everyone enjoy the same human rights. Here's Article 2. Some of these are longer than others. Some of them are shorter, just like in the Bill of Rights. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration. Everyone in the entire world, all people, without distinction of any kind, race, color, sex, religion, political opinion, national origin, birth status, whatever. These are human rights that all human beings should enjoy. All human beings should be treated this way, regardless of who they are, where they're from, or anything about their background. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of political status. Of course, at this period of time, right after World War II, many nations were still colonies or trusts from other nations. For example, India and Pakistan, I believe, got their independence in 1949 or 1948. And this declaration was written in 1948. England was still ruling over that area. Same with the countries in the Middle East. Many of them got their independence in 48, 49, where from the British Empire. The British Empire was disbanded, and all these independent countries got their independence. And so that's why they put this kind of language in there, so that they could show that it doesn't matter what status the government has in that particular area, everybody is entitled to all these rights and freedoms, the whole human race. And here we go, Article 3, very short, straight to the point. Everybody has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. You remember life, that's the right to life that you were writing about since the Declaration of Independence. And liberty, the same liberty you're writing about since the Declaration of Independence. Freedom within the law. The law is a very, very important part of the concept of human rights, because the law is what allows the civilization and allows for rights to be protected and expressed and understood. And so the law has a lot to do with this document, even though every country has different laws. So again, the people who created this Human Rights Declaration had to struggle with the notion that different countries have different laws, and so that the human rights that they put forth had to be acceptable in every country. It's tricky business. But here it's life, liberty, and security. So security of person, very similar to the notion of right to life, if you think about the right to remain alive. But I think this also leaned towards this right of privacy that we don't see anywhere discussed as right of privacy. But there you have it, security of person. You could interpret what that means. Here's Article 4, very strong statement. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. And of course, you know, even today, the modern term for slavery is human trafficking, and there is human trafficking all over the world, even here in the United States. People are worried about human trafficking coming across from the border with Mexico, all kinds of discussions about those things. So, for example, you could write your entire essay, if you wanted to, about human trafficking. You didn't have to deal with the other issues if you didn't want to. Or this could be just one part of your essay, and you could have an essay that talks about several different issues, not just one issue. That's going to be all up to you. Here's Article 5. No, again, short, sweet, to the point. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. A lot like the Bill of Rights, cruel and unusual punishment. Here's definitely a prohibition against torture throughout the world. We talked about that when we studied the Bill of Rights. But once again, you could focus your entire essay on this if you wanted to. And here, 6, also short and sweet. Everybody has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Can't have any non-persons. Can't have a human being who's not considered to be a person. You might find this to be a little archaic, but in 100 years ago, certainly 100 years ago, it's not a little less, lots of people were not considered to be subject to the law. They were outside the law, outlaws, if you will. But here and today, lots of people consider homeless people as not people before the law. So I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's one of the reasons that this is in here, to reinforce the notion that every human being has dignity and every human being has a right to the protection of the law, and therefore to all of these human rights. So those ideas are really connected in that way. Here's Article 7. And again, you see the theme that runs through here. All, meaning all people, are equal before the law. Once again, one law for everybody. No one's above the law. Everybody's subject to the same laws. Now, of course, it's a little different here because the different countries have different laws. And so they're basically saying all are equal before the law. They sort of mean in France, that law, and in England, that law, and in India, that law. But they're really expressing the notion of equality before the law as a human right. And all are entitled without discrimination to equal protection of the law. Once again, all are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration and against any incitement to such discrimination. So they definitely want to make sure that everybody's treated equally. I say it a few times here to cover the bases with all these different countries. Here's Article 8. Everyone has the right to an effective remedy by competent national tribunals. A tribunal is a more general term for a court, since every nation in the world, especially in 1948, didn't have a court system. There are different systems of justice in the different countries. Some of you may know more about that than I. Some of you might have more experience with those kinds of things than me. In any case, what they're saying here is that everybody has the right to sue or to be protected by court in terms of protecting their human rights. And it says here, competent national, meaning not fake courts. And some countries use, all kinds of corrupt courts in order to get the things done that they want to get done. So that this was an attempt to make sure that the United Nations could support courts that were operating honestly and not in a corrupt fashion. Here's Article 9. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. Now that word arbitrary is very, very important, and it surfaces a number of times in this declaration. Arbitrary means outside of the law, not according to the law. Arbitrary means according to the whim or the desire of a person. Arbitrary means without legal recourse. And so people can be arrested, people can be detained, people can be exiled. Exiled means thrown out of the country. But these things can only happen in a legal fashion. There must be laws that govern these actions of the state, of the government, or it's against human rights. So here you can see a very strong statement that human rights require the law. That's why that word arbitrary is in there. If you took the word arbitrary out, be almost silly. Of course, people can be arrested, detained, or exiled if they do things that are against the law. That's why that word arbitrary is in there. Here's Article 10. Everybody's entitled in full equality to a fair and public hearing by an independent and partial tribunal in the determination of his rights and obligations and of any criminal charge against him. So once again, here's the idea of public trials. We talked about that in the Bill of Rights, how important the public trial is, and an impartial tribunal, an impartial court, like an impartial jury, not people who are predisposed against someone for some reason. So fair and public hearing, important. Again, these are legal aspects of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all steeped in the legality, because the law is the tool that societies, civilizations, and governments use to implement rights of various kinds. And so this is in essence a legal document that is focused on the law. So that's why you see that over and over and over again. When people break the law, I might have mentioned this when we talked about civil rights in the United States. When people break the law, they're really taking away everyone else's freedom, everyone else's liberty, because our liberty only comes from obedience to the law. We're all equal under the law, one law for everybody. Nobody's above the law, and it's the law that gives us our freedom. And so when people break the law, they're taking away people's freedom and they're violating people's human rights. You don't hear talk about this very much because in the United States, we talk about civil rights. We have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And this document, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, was really written for the entire world because there's many places around the world. And again, some of you have more experience with this than I do. Many places in the world where people's rights are not as clearly protected by the government, where the government doesn't recognize any of these rights for people, or so only some of these rights and not others. And so the Declaration of Human Rights was written just like the Declaration of Independence, where they declared the inalienable rights for everybody and said that government is there to protect these rights. This is a declaration that these are the rights that human beings should have. This is the way human beings should relate to each other. This is the way governments should relate to human beings. This is the way human beings, these are the ways in which human beings should be able to relate to their government. And there's a big should in there. It's not that these are legal in the sense that this is the law, as much as they're couched in legal terminology so that people like us can understand how these things would be implemented in a locale, in the law of our own country. Here's Article 11. Everyone charged with a penal offense, that's a criminal offense, has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now, that's something that here in the United States, many people are familiar with, but in other countries, that's not their legal system. In France, for example, you're presumed guilty until proven innocent, the exact opposite. The prosecutor in France can arrest you, throw you in jail, and then build its case against you, which is the exact opposite of how it works in the United States. But nevertheless, this is France signed this document, and here it is in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And again, there's the public trial aspect, right? And then here, the accused has all the guarantees necessary for his defense, similar to the Miranda laws in the United States. Some of you wrote about that. You have the right to remain silent. You can have a lawyer. We talked about some of those things when we looked at the Bill of Rights. You will find lots of echoes of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights in this human rights document, because they were used in a way as a model for these things. And even though those documents really were written for one country and one people, this was written for the world, for everybody. And I know I mentioned this before, but it's the only declaration of human rights for the world that the countries have, the representatives of the countries have signed and have promised to adhere to. No one shall be held guilty of any penal offense, criminal offense, on account of an act of omission which did not constitute a penal offense at the time it was committed. There you go. At the time it was committed. At the time it was committed. They can't retroactively charge you with something. If I do something today, it's not a crime, and tomorrow they pass a law and they make it a crime, they can't go back and say, oh, now it's a crime, and yesterday you did this, right? Or even yesterday the penalty was $1, and today the penalty is $1,000, but I committed the crime yesterday, they can't come after me for the $1,000. So you might find that a little specific, just like some of the Bill of Rights articles were pretty specific, but you can imagine around the world the kinds of shenanigans that governments would pull regarding the people over whom they ruled. And obviously some governments did things like this. So the people who wrote the 1948 Declaration, one of whom was, by the way, the wife of the president of the United States at the time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president of the United States, and Eleanor Roosevelt was one of the people who had a big hand in writing this particular document. Okay, Article 12, again. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to attacks on his honor or reputation. Everyone has the right to protection of the law against such interference or attacks. So, closest thing to right to privacy we have here is this statement right here: privacy, family, home, papers, correspondence. But there's that word arbitrary again. Remember, arbitrary means without the law. Certainly, legally, you can have your privacy interfered with. Legally, your home or your correspondence can be interfered with. But arbitrary means without the law. And that's what this document is saying, that civilization is based on the law. Having the law gives us these rights. Everybody needs to obey the law. And when that happens, you can have civilization and you can have human rights. But if people don't do that, if they act in an arbitrary fashion, if governments act in an arbitrary fashion, then people's human rights are being violated. Here's 13. Interesting. Next three are very interesting articles. They deal with citizenship. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. So in the old days in Europe, for example, some people were tied to the land. They couldn't leave the area in which they were born. They belong there. This is basically saying that people can migrate, can move around within a country. Each state means each country. So this is freedom of movement within the country. You should be able to live anywhere in the country you want to live, and you should be able to travel around inside the country. That's what's called migration. And here we have everyone has the right to leave a country, including his own, and return to his country. So once again, this is freedom of movement. You're allowed to go out of the country and then come back to the country. You can't be kept prisoner in your country. You can't be kept prisoner in some locale in the country, and you can't be kept prisoner in the country itself. Notice it doesn't say you have a right to leave the country and stay away. It doesn't quite say that. Here, 14. Everyone has the right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from persecution. Asylum means safety. Persecution, as you well know, means if somebody's rights are being deprived in some way. This is the reason so many people coming to the United States today are allowed in, because they're seeking asylum, or at least they're claiming to seek asylum. And that's a human right. That's why the United States says, oh, if you're seeking asylum, you can certainly come here. We will protect your human rights. So it's only because they're seeking asylum from persecution that people can come here. People are talking about migrants and illegal migrants and immigrants and illegal immigrants, but people seeking asylum are a special class because asylum is a human right. Of course, this right may not be invoked in the case of criminal, if you're running away from the country because you committed a crime. If you committed a crime and you're running away from the police, that's not asylum. Asylum has to be running away from persecution, religious or racial or some kind of persecution in some fashion. That's what they're saying here. But Article 15 says it this way here. Everyone has a right to a nationality. So people have the right to live in a particular country and be citizens of that country. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality, nor denied the right to change his nationality. So again, there's that word arbitrarily. It doesn't say that people have the right to change their nationality regardless. It says there are laws governing the right to change nationality. As long as you obey that law, then you can change your nationality. So, for example, the United States has immigration laws. Some people come into the United States in a legal fashion according to the law. They have a right to change their nationality. Somebody comes into the United States not according to the law, arbitrarily, they don't have a right to change their nationality, which is not to say that people can't come seeking asylum. That's a different right. So you might see some tension between those. That might be something you might be interested in writing about. Okay, let's take a look at this one here, Article 16. Very interesting. Men and women of full age, without limitation due to race, nationality, or religion, have the right to marry and found a family. So people can get married with each other regardless of their race, their nationality, their religion. Those things can't prevent people from getting married. Now, it doesn't say here that men have to marry women or women have to marry men. It simply says that men and women of full age have the right to marry. So certainly this leaves room for men and marrying men and women marrying women, which happens much more these days than it did in 1948. And these men and women in marriage, they are entitled to equal rights as to marriage. During the marriage, before the marriage, during the marriage, and at its dissolution, divorce. So men and women, or men and men, have equal rights in a marriage. No one is primary over the other. Marriage shall be entered into only with the free and full consent of the intending spouses. Arranged marriage, forced marriage, those things could be violations of human rights. Of course, in arranged marriage, the spouses could say yes, they could consent, but some people with arranged marriages are forced into marriage, and forcing someone into marriage is a violation of a person's human rights. Some of you might have more experience with those things than I do. And here, the family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and state. Very strong statement of how important the family is. And it's the fundamental organization of society is the family. These days, there are lots of discussions about whether families have rights. Of course, in the old days, the children belonged to the parents. Now the children are not the parents' property. Nevertheless, a family, however that's defined, nuclear family, extended family, entitled to special protection by society and the state. So here the world is recognizing the significance of family to human beings. Yeah, everyone has the right to own property, alone as well as in association of others. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. Here's a right to property. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, life, liberty, property. So here, no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. If you steal from me, you are breaking the law and arbitrarily depriving me of my property, and therefore it's a violation of my human rights. If somebody goes and burns down a house, somebody's house, they're depriving that person of that person's property. They're actually violating that person's human rights. Yes, I know it's against the law, and there are legal rights that are being violated as well, but more significantly, they're also violating a person's human rights. And there's that word arbitrarily, right? If you can take someone's property by law, right? Somebody owes you, you sue them, the court says they have to pay you. Okay, that's not arbitrary. That's according to law. But here, people walk into a store and steal things and leave. They're arbitrarily depriving the store owner of his property and therefore violating that store owner's human rights. Think about that. Here in the United States, we don't talk about human rights that much, but this is pretty clear what it's saying. People have a human right to their property. And if you take a person's property, you're violating the human rights. Violations of human rights, that's what Hitler was charged with. That's what the criminals in the Nazi Germany were charged with. That's what lots of people want to charge Putin with today. Human rights violations. So this is serious business, even though many people might take it more lightly. Here's Article 18. Everybody has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Of course, in the Bill of Rights, right, this is stuck in the First Amendment. Here it takes 18 articles to come across this idea, which is not to say that any of these articles, all of these articles are equal. Each of these human rights that are here are all equal to each other. All of them are human rights. Not that Article 18 is less important than Article 1. They're all, just like with the amendments to the Constitution, it's not as if Amendment 5 is less important than Amendment 1. They just needed to order them and break them up in some fashion. So here you have, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Freedom of religion. This right includes the freedom to change religion and the freedom to live alone or in community with others, and to manifest your religion, to practice your religion in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Freedom of religion, very pure, strong statement about freedom of religion. Here, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. Here's freedom of speech. This right includes the freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek and receive and impart information, ideas through any media, regardless of frontiers, through any media. The right to express your ideas and hold opinions without interference through any media. Maybe some of you are cognizant of what was going on with Twitter in the last few years before Elon Musk bought it, where Twitter and Facebook and others were banning people, certain people from using that media to express their opinions for different reasons. But there's no qualification here. It doesn't say if you don't like the opinion, if the company that owns the media doesn't like the opinion, then the company can say no. That's not what it says here. It says here, through any media, everybody has the right to freedom of expression. So anybody who bans me, for example, from Twitter or Facebook because I don't like what I'm saying is violating my human rights. We don't hear talk about this much in the United States, but this is what it says right there. And this is the United Nations Declaration, which including the United States, all the countries of the world have signed and pledged to support in their laws and actions. Article 20, everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful association and assembly. Basically, the freedom of assembly, same freedom of assembly that's listed in the Bill of Rights that we've looked at. Look at this one here. Not too many more, bear with me. Everyone has the right to take part in the government of the country. Go direct, okay, so here, strong statement of democracy. People need to be involved. Everyone has equal access. You can't deny certain public services to one group of people and another. Here, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. Not because God said that your family should be king, and not because this country conquered another, but the will of the people. Very strong statement in favor of democracy. And this will of the people shall be expressed in periodic and genuine elections. So you have to have elections for the people to be able to vote. Periodic means it's not once and then that's it. They have to happen again and again. And genuine elections, not fake elections, not rigged elections, not corrupt elections, but genuine elections. It gives the people of the United Nations a lot of wiggle room here on what to support and what not to support around the world. The election shall be by universal and equal suffrage. Suffrage is the right to vote. So equal suffrage means one person, one vote, not you get 5 votes and I get 1 vote, right? Equal suffrage. And universal, meaning everybody who's in that area where the election's being held has the right to vote. Certainly, they can limit that by law, 18-year-olds, whatever it may be, but universal meaning everybody who qualifies under the law should have the right to vote there. And a secret vote, because if the 5 of you want something and I want something else, I shouldn't have to tell you how I voted. Secret ballot is really important. 22, everyone as a member of society has the right to Social Security. And this is not the retirement Social Security system that we talk about in the United States, although they are talking about the fact that people should be supported. Right here, people have economic, social, and cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and the free development of his personality. Free development of his personality. That's the pursuit of happiness. People have economic rights, social rights, and cultural rights to pursue their happiness. And that is a human right. And everybody has that equal right. They don't actually use the word equal in there. Okay, 23. Everybody has the right to work and to choose where they work and to have conditions of work that are healthy. Everybody should have equal pay for equal work. Some of you may know in the United States, for example, there's a big controversy about the fact that women do a job, men do a job. They're not necessarily paid equally. So that's what they're talking about here. That's a human rights violation, right? Article 24, just skipping a little bit because I know it's tedious. Here, look at this one. Everyone has the right to rest and leisure. Imagine that, including reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay. I don't get periodic holidays with pay. I'm a part-time teacher. They don't pay me for the holidays, right? Is that a violation of my human rights? Here, look at this one. Everyone has the right to a standard of living, a quality of life, adequate for the health and well-being of himself and his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care. And if you are unemployed, if you're sick, if you're disabled, if you're a widow, if you're aged, whatever it may be, circumstances beyond your control, you have a right to the necessary social services to provide you with food, clothing, housing, and medical care. Right there, listed as a human right. And then motherhood and childhood are entitled to special care and assistance. And all children born in or out of wedlock shall enjoy the same social protection. There were big issues about whether people were born in a marriage or out of a marriage. But this special recognition about the roles of children and mothers, very important for, especially for the time. And look at this one. You might be surprised at this. Everyone has a right to education. Education shall be free, at least in the elementary schools. Education shall be compulsory. So education for young kids is free, and they must go to school. Technical and professional education should be made generally available, and higher education should be equally accessible to all on the basis of merit. So you should be able to go to higher education based on your achievement, merit, your achievement in high school, not based on your race or your wealth or any other criteria that people might want to use to select who goes to college. That would be a violation of human rights. There's a lot of controversy about this kind of stuff these days. Education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality, pursuit of happiness. It should promote tolerance and friendship and understanding among people. So education is designed so that people are taught to get along with each other and not persecute each other. And people should protect each other's human rights. They should know what people's human rights are, and they should be educated about that, and they should be educated to promote that. This statement here, very strong statement about the way people should be relating to each other in the world. And look at this one. Parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. A prior right. Even before human rights, parents have the right to decide on their children's education. Maybe some of you are familiar with some of the controversies around these days, what should be taught in the schools and what shouldn't be taught in the schools, and whether parents have a right to say what should be taught in the schools. Well, according to the United Nations, the parents have a human right, a prior right, before all other rights, to choose how their kids should be educated. Think about that. Here, everyone has a right freely to participate in the cultural life of the community, enjoy the arts, and this one says, if you invent something or write something, you have the right to the material interests to make the money off it, not somebody else. And this one here, everybody has entitled to, these are, last few are very much like articles, Amendments 9 and Amendment 10 in the Bill of Rights, which sort of were catch-alls to, and some of you wrote about this, to ensure that things went well and things they couldn't consider would still be covered. Here, everyone's entitled to a social and international order in which the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration can be fully realized. And this one here, this is very important. Everyone has duties to the community. So here's a recognition that, yes, everybody has all these human rights, but people also have responsibilities. And you can't have one without the other. We all need to participate in the community, in the society. We all need to adhere to the laws. We all need to support each other's human rights in order to have the free and full development of everybody's personality, in order for everybody to pursue their happiness. And here, you're only limited in the exercise of your rights and freedoms by the law. And the only purpose of the law is to protect other people's rights. Well, I'm free to do anything I want, but my freedom ends at the tip of your nose. I can't do anything that's going to violate your rights. I can do whatever I want, but I can't do anything that violates your rights. Very strong statement. And then this little catch-all phrase, these rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. They didn't want anybody to seize on something that was said in Article 3 and negate something that was in Article 5. They just want this to be properly carried out. And nothing in this declaration can be interpreted as applying for any state group or person any right to engage in any activity, to perform any act aimed at the destruction of the rights and freedoms set forth herein. In other words, anybody's doing anything to take away human rights in general, they're doing the wrong thing. Okay, so I know there's a lot of articles there in the human rights article, in the Human Rights Declaration. Your job is to think about what topic you want to write about. You can write the same kind of essay you wrote before. You can choose any 3 articles and simply write about those 3 articles, or different parts of one article and different parts of another article and cobble them together. Or you can choose one of the issues, one of the topics that emerges from here, like immigration and things of that nature, discrimination, freedom, different ideas about freedom. You can write about any one of those kinds of things and craft an essay that way. You may know about situations throughout the world where some of these human rights are not allowed or not supported by the government, or where people's human rights are being violated. You could simply write about that situation if you want. You do have to write a whole essay. You might want to pick out 3 different aspects or 3 different examples, but you can focus your essay in any of those directions that you like. So I know it's a lot to think about. It's a big charge. I'm giving you an enormous amount of freedom in terms of what to write about in this 3rd essay. I'm going to repeat some of the things I said earlier in class. So this 3rd essay is going to really be your last essay. We won't do another final exam. So this 3rd essay turns out to be a major project for you. It's the most important thing you'll be doing this term in this class. So give it some thought. And when we go over on Thursday, we'll go over the timeline again, and we'll be careful about when things are due. But certainly get to work on it. And on Thursday, one of the things we'll do is we'll check in and see if people have an idea what they want to write about, or have already taken some steps to write some of the essays.
How many words, Professor?
Same 600 words.
Okay.
Now, some of you might get carried away. I know that won't happen to all of you, but if you do, try not to go over 800 words, really.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. That's me.
That's okay. That's okay. I appreciate the dedication to the task. But 600 words, right? So that's really fine. And if it's 580 words, that's okay too. 600 words is really just a magnitude. It's not an actual solid number. Write a good essay. Cover 3 aspects of your topic, or 3 different topics. With your introduction, your conclusion, you'll be fine. You need 3 sources in addition to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You should refer to the Declaration of Human Rights in one way or another, and then 3 sources, preferably from the library, but it doesn't have to be the library. You can get them from the internet. We had that library class last week, so that should have reinforced some of the notions of how to do the research. You need to follow the MLA guidelines. Many of you have been doing that fine. Some of you still need to make sure you do the title page correctly. So take a look at the sample MLA paper or some of the feedback I've given you. And certainly in your in-text citations, most of you have really adapted very well to that. But we have to make sure those are correct. And then, of course, the works cited. Some of you are still struggling with that works cited format. So try and get it right for this essay. Okay, any questions about what they're doing, what to do, anything like that? Issues, problems?
Hi, Professor, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so let's say we were to choose 1 article instead of 3. Can that 1 article be compared in, let's say, 3 different countries? How it runs differently? Okay.
That's a wonderful idea. I love that essay. That's a great essay. Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And in the past, students have also, see, when you ask questions, some of these things come out. Some other students have compared the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to the Bill of Rights or to the Declaration of Independence. You can do that as well if you want to. I like that essay. Anybody else? Any ideas? Anything you want to share? Okay, that's fine. I'll see you on Thursday. Do some thinking about your essay. Maybe you'll share some more on Thursday. Maybe we'll take a look at a sample essay. And have a good night.
All right,
Thank you so
Professor.
much, Professor. Have a good night.
Have a good night, Professor.
Yeah,
Professor.
bye-bye.
I have a question, Professor.
Yes, Nicole.
So the third essay, is it still with the Declaration of Independence?
No, the third, you mean the first essay was the Declaration of Independence. The second essay was the Bill of Rights. The third essay is what we went over tonight, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Okay, so we just have to talk about human rights in general?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
yes.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good
Good
night.
night. Bye-bye. Thank you.